10 research-informed classroom management tips from a Ph.D. candidate.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Ms. Ming's channel. I am a Ph.D. candidate in the field of education. In my daily life, I train pre-service teachers to prepare them for teaching culturally, linguistically diverse students. Most of the pre-service teachers do not feel they're well prepared to manage their classrooms. Yet this is one of the most popular questions they were asked during their interview for their jobs. So if you're pre-service teachers or in-service teachers and are curious what are the research-informed practices for classroom management, please stay tuned in this video as we will talk about 10 research-informed practices for classroom management. Are you ready? Let's get started. Tip number 1, establish a classroom policy at the beginning of the semester. It is very important to establish the expectations at the very beginning of the semester. It is also important to make sure that all of the students are aware of this classroom policy. Make sure you state the policy orally and also have it written on a board or on a wall. In addition, the classroom policies should be stated in a way that's very clear and simple to the students to remember. Finally, stick to your policy. Do not change back and forth in terms of what the students are expected to do. If you change the policies back and forth so many times, the students will perceive the policy to be very flexible and negotiable, and they will try to negotiate with you as there are going to be more problematic behaviors. Tip number 2, classroom rules. Make sure your classroom rules are stated in a very simple way. Make sure your classroom rules are observable not only to the teachers but also to the students so that the students can regulate themselves. Finally, the classroom rules need to be stated in a positive manner. So instead of saying, do not run in the hallway, do not talk in the class, do not do A, B, C, D, you're really hindering the students. What are the possible problematic behaviors they can be expected in the classroom? Instead, you should convey the expected behavior such as please walk slowly in the hall. Please be quiet when the teacher is talking. Tip number 3, establish a classroom routine. Establishing a classroom routine is essential because in that way students are expected what they're doing in each classroom. For my classroom, usually I started a warm-up activity and then we do some writing and taking notes, and then we will do a game or activity. Because the students are already used to this established routine, there will be less likely that there are any uncompliant behaviors in the classroom. It's also helpful for you planning the lessons. Tip number 4, do now activity. When the students, they're outside in the playground during their recess time, they're having so much fun. And when they walk into their classroom, they're still thinking about what they were doing in the playground. So one of the ways I use to calm students down is to use a do now activity. So usually I give them a piece of paper and have them write down responses to a warm-up question that's related to the topic. As the students are engaged in their writing, it's more likely for them to really think about what they're doing in this classroom and really calm them down instead of really think about what's going on outside of the classroom. For lower grades, you can also try a drawing activity, try a meditation thinking activity. For example, if you're talking about mammals for the day, you can have the students to close their eyes and picture one of their favorite mammal and then later prepare to share in class. So as the students are engaged in those silent, quiet thinking or writing process, it naturally calms them down. And it's also a very good way to activate their prior knowledge on the topic. And number 5. With the students who have behavior issues that are not compliant with the classroom tasks, you can start with some easy small tasks. Research shows that students are more likely to be in compliance after they already established a compliance behavior. If one student refuses to work on their worksheet, what you can do is ask the students to come to you. Can you come to me to the desk? Good job. Can you help me with something? Thank you. Can you help me distributing the worksheet to the class? Thank you. Okay, now I want you to write down your name on the worksheet for me. As the student is engaged in a sequence of smaller tasks, the student is already established a behavior of compliance, and finally, once you see the student is really doing what you're asking him to do, you can ask the student, now I want you to work on the worksheet, just like everybody else. Tip number 6, give student a choice. So sometimes the students, they can get demotivated along the semester if they're just finished an exam, if they're exhausted and they don't want to work on the tasks. One of the ways to have them in compliance is to give them a choice. For example, if you want the student to work on the worksheet, you can ask them, do you want to work independently or in groups? Do you want to do this game or the other game? Do you want to read this material or that material? Because you're giving the students a choice, they automatically think, oh, I'm choosing to do this task instead of the teacher requires us to do this task. So once they feel like they have the control of what they're doing, it's more likely they actually in compliance with the tasks. Tip number 7, use different types of reinforcement. There are different types of reinforcement. For example, positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement refers to it reinforces something that's pleasant. The second type of reinforcement is negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement refers to removing something that is unpleasant. So if there are any unpleasant or unexpected classroom behaviors, you can use negative reinforcement to remove them. The third type of reinforcement is positive punishment. Positive punishment refers to the teacher adding something to the student that is unpleasant to the student. So for example, if there are students that have behavior issues, if you're giving the students detention after the school hours, and that is the positive punishment. The last reinforcement tip is extinction. Extinction refers to remove something that's pleasant to the student. For example, if the students, they don't do well in the classroom, the teacher may remove their recess time. However, I want to caution you of using this extinction method. So think about it. If the student comes to the class, not only the student wants to learn everything in the classroom, but also the student comes here to make friends, to feel better. So you want to establish a good environment, a motivational environment to the students. By constantly removing something that's pleasant to the student, it may have a detrimental effect on the student's perception of the school, of the classroom, of the teacher, and it may demotivate the students for future learning. Using the extinction method may have an immediate outcome that is pleasant to the teacher. However, it's not a good reinforcement method for the long term. Tip number 8, use differential reinforcement methods. You may reinforce something in different situations. For example, during instruction, if there is a student talking, you may not want to stop your instruction to reinforce something to the student's behavior. Instead, you can give the student a teacher's look and hopefully the student will calm down. However, if there's another stimuli present when the student is misbehaving, then you may want to stop your instruction or stop your classroom task to reinforce something, to prevent something bigger happen in the classroom. Tip number 9, consider the cultural influence of the student's behavior. So sometimes students behave in a certain way, not because they want to act out, but because they think it is okay. A lot of the behaviors and practices in the classroom are culturally relevant. There are 2 ways of knowing whether the student is acting out or if it's just honest misunderstanding. First, observe the students when he or she is interacting with someone else. Second of all, talk to the students. It is very important to really communicate with the students and ask the students why they're behaving in a certain ways. So this not only work with knowing if the student is having culturally relevant misunderstanding issue, and also to any of the misbehaving students, ask them why they're behaving certain ways and try to be their friends, try to be understanding and guiding them like why it is not good for themselves and others to behave in the classroom like that. But essentially communicating with the student, it's so important, and avoiding ask the student yes or no question. I know it's really hard. Sometimes we ask, are you supposed to do this? Is it okay if you do this? No, but try to ask like, why do you want to do this? Like, why did you do this? So, and guide the students to see like why it could be interrupting to the classroom, why it is considered not acceptable in the classroom, so the students can see themselves and regulate themselves in the future. Tip number 10, stay calm. Please stay calm. Please don't yell at your students. It is the terrible thing that you could ever do in the classroom. Once you start screaming or yelling, the students, they will know that you already lost the control of the classroom, and it's actually not going to make the situation better. Also, if you start to scream or yell at the students suddenly perceive you as a negative figure and they lose the respect from you. So in the long term, it may actually cause more student-teacher tension. If you are losing control of the classroom situation, close your eyes, take a deep breath for 3 seconds, and rethink about the other 9 tips that what you can do. But the last thing you want to do is to lose control and yell at the students.
Alright, now let's review all of the tips we talked about in this video for classroom management. 1. Establish a classroom policy. 2. Have a clear, observable, positively stated rules. 3. Establish a classroom routine. 4. Start your class with a do now activity to calm down the students. 5. To achieve students' compliance of the tasks, you can start with some smaller tasks. 6. Give students a choice. 7. Use different types of reinforcement. 8. Use differential reinforcement. 9. Consider the cultural influence of the student behavior. Talk to the students and avoid asking yes or no question. 10. Stay calm and please do not yell at your students. Alright, I hope you find this video helpful. If you like it, please thumbs up and comment down below what other topics you want me to review. I'll make videos for that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.